All right, so welcome to our virtual mic meeting with Aren Goldberg and Issy Kelly. My name is Frankie Kerner, and I am the membership coordinator of the mic.
I'm Joey. I'm currently vice president, next year's president.
Thank you guys for joining us. We're really excited. And we had a few questions from Instagram we'll be asking, as well as just questions that the mic has in general. But just kick it off, introductions. Aren Goldberg has worked with Crowd Control Digital, 88 Rising, Insomniac Events. He works in music marketing and event production. And Issy has worked for Kingdom of Mind, Torque Events, Kurza. Is that how you say it?
Kurza. Yep,
Kurza.
You got it.
And she helps run live music events. But yeah, I guess those were like brief descriptions, but can each of you kind of briefly explain what it is you do?
I'll let Issy start off.
Okay, of course. Thank you, Frankie and Joey, for having us. It is a pleasure to be back. I was fortunate enough to make it out to Eugene for a past mic event for the Women in Music programming last spring. So good to join you guys digitally. To give you some background on what I do, my business is Kingdom of Mind. We are a joint venture with Live Nation, and we grew out of an initiative called the Women Nation Fund, out of the recognition that there needs to be more female representation in the live events and production space. So our business purpose is to produce shows and concerts, festivals. We were gearing up for a launch this fall, and now we're at a point with most other people in music where we're having to redirect a little bit and figure out the best way forward. So we're excited to come back to the music and the programming when the time is right, and excited to take this time to connect and really reflect on the direction that music and live production should be going, so we come back all the stronger.
Nice. Well, as Issy said, thank you so much, Frankie and Joey, for having both of us. We're really excited to be here. And a little bit about me. I feel like I'm a man of many hats, as I have been in my time doing this. It's, for me, the most exciting way to go about it, just having so many different opportunities and ways to maneuver through the space. That's just kind of how I go about it. But my main thing that I do, I'm the marketing manager at this digital and creative marketing agency called Crowd Control, which Frankie expressed. So we have a roster of about 50 clients currently or more. You know, there's a lot happening in there for sure. We worked on a number of larger artists and brands. We've done anyone from Calvin Harris to Zomboy, and I actually did 88 Rising through Crowd Control. So not directly with 88 Rising, but I did stuff with 88 Rising through Crowd Control almost 2 years ago now. I'm hitting 2 years with Crowd Control in July, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, we do, and then we do stuff with Kappa, USA, and Canada in terms of helping them scale their business and running their digital ads and whatnot. And we did stuff with Wheat Maps back in the day. There's a lot going on in Crowd Control right now, but what I was focusing on most of the time was tour marketing and making sure that shows for artist tours were selling out and like getting the most visibility to the online world as possible. But that took a big hit through the coronavirus happening, of course. So I had to pivot. But yeah, so Crowd Control is my main thing. I also I do a lot of production and artist relations for a numerous amount of companies, but mostly Insomniac Events, which is where I had the pleasure of meeting Issy, which was really great. And we've kind of become very close through that. And then I also currently am the tour manager for Party Favor. He's a DJ right now, and he's been around for a while. Great guy, and that's been really awesome. But those are my main three things right now. Insomniac and Party Favor on hold because of events kind of being on hold throughout the world right now. So got a lot of time to focus on Crowd Control and marketing right now.
Great. And you kind of touched on this, but you two know each other. Can you kind of talk about like how you guys met and what capacity you worked in together?
Yeah, Issy, kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aren and I are usually both based in LA. We came to know each other through being around, I think, similar scenes, electronic music, live events, We had met through some Insomniac productions and have grown to work together on site for those productions, primarily doing artist relations. So managing the logistics and experience of the performers, crew, and artists on site. But our first experience working together actually came when we were on site for a production that I had produced under Twerk Events in Sacramento, and Aren led the entirety of the artist relations department. And that event was really special in that it was a show that we produced independently and we're figuring it out. And it wasn't under the direction of a larger promoter, but it was very much, you know, putting your full efforts into things and, you know, making it work and doing a large production for ourselves. And Aren really held it down it was a 2-day event in dealing with transportation from artists to their experience on site to logistics that went far beyond that department. And I think that that's where our relationship really solidified. And at least from my perspective, I knew Aren was the man for the job with pretty much anything, because we went through that challenge together of producing something for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean I remember that day vividly. I mean, it was definitely leading up to the event. It was, you know, there was a lot of planning that went into it, but it was honestly, it's crazy to think about. 5 years ago, really was the first time that we had met. I'd just been, you know, working with a handful of artists at that time, still trying to get my bearings, you know, within the space. And, you know, Issy had always been so positive and always so open to any walk of life that she came across. And for me, I gravitated towards that immediately when I met her I can't even remember what Insomniac event it was, but it was, I know it was maybe Beyond Wonderland or EDC or something of the sorts. But where that was, I remember distinctly just having a conversation with her, and we kicked it off. We hit it off for, you know, a couple hours, and I know I didn't want to hold her off while she was working because I didn't really have much going on at that time, but I made an effort to keep in touch with her over time. And ultimately she's a very big reason why I'm a part of Insomniac today. You know, without her support and just being her in general, like, I mean, I owe a lot of where I am today to Issy, and it's honestly an honor to be partnered with her on a lot and working with her on a lot. And Metropolis was definitely the glue, and the really, there were so many like hurdles to go through during the event itself too. There were so many situations that we just did not expect to happen. And that's kind of the nature of the music business too. You kind of have to be willing to pivot at any moment, and you just kind of have to, you know, take it as it comes. And how you approach that situation and how you overcome it is what will keep driving you forward too. So I think the fact that both Issy and I can stay composed in the heat of the moment too, and push through together, that is what makes me want to keep working with her. And I think together, you know, we can really make some serious headway through this space. And I'm thankful to have known her for all this time.
Yeah. You guys both have obviously worked in the music industry for quite some years now. Do you remember the time when if it was an experience or a story or anything like that, when like this passion for music went from just something you loved to being something that you wanted to do as a career and a way of living?
Yes, absolutely. I think that for me, I started to see that, you know, this could be a career, this could be a livelihood after I started producing on my own. So I began by doing shows at my college, and I think much like University of Oregon, we had a club where you bring artists to the campus, you host the shows on campus, and all of that risk and contracting is done via the school. So we had a situation in my junior year where a popular event that happened on campus was canceled by the school, I think for budgetary reasons, but it was a school that was a hit with the students, or it was an event that was a hit with the students. So I think this must have been in around February of that year. We had our spring break coming up, and I decided that it was a good idea to try and recreate that event without the school and to take on that responsibility of the producer, but in a different way, in sort of a way that was more independent and not on campus. So I threw my first show that was really more of a warehouse party than, you know, anything else. And it was, you know, essentially that event that everyone loved, created off campus. We had busing, we had some sponsorship as well, booked a few artists, and saw a little bit of revenue come in. And I think that was, I remember it's a funny story, but that initial revenue was both taken through Square, but also by the end of the night, I had this like vase, like a flower vase. And it was like, there was just money from tips and like, you know, different parts of the production just crammed into this flower vase. I remember the next morning taking it to the bank, like a Chase bank, and just starting to take out these ones and 20s and kind of just dump it out at the bank. And they were shocked. They were like, what is this from? And I said, it was from, you know, a show that I did last night. And like, even though it's a pretty silly sounding situation, and it was like, I think that was the first moment in time where I realized that like this thing that I loved, which was music and shared experience, could actually, you know, be a business and could be iterated upon, and I could grow into being able to create these experiences better and in more impactful ways, and to focus not just on the experience, but like how to make that self-sustaining and how to create a business out of it.
Nice, I love that. Yeah, I guess for me, it's really interesting. Like thinking back just to like when I really started diving into this. I mean, I kind of jumped headfirst straight out of high school, so it's really weird. I mean, I feel like not often am I able to jump into a scenario at age 18 into being directly involved with. Like I didn't even expect to go into the space. Honestly, I was trying to be a hockey player, you know, for a good portion of my life. I mean, where I was coming up through middle school and high school, I was very focused on athletes and just like trying to be one, you know, and honestly just trying to make headway in that space. After I got this really bad injury my senior year of high school, I just had to pivot immediately, and I wanted to try to be more involved in something else that I had passion, which was music. And I pretty much just dropped everything I had going for me up in San Jose, California, in the Bay Area. That's where I'm from. And then I moved to Orange County to go to school. And I basically made kind of a deal with my folks that I would go to school, you know, and I would focus on that, but I'd also want to commute out to Culver City, which is actually where I live now. I'd commute from Culver City or to Culver City from Fullerton every day and work on this project with this artist who is now known as Ellis Dream. His old project was called Brills, and he had a clothing brand and a record label that I basically helped him run with another really important figure in my life currently still. I still keep in contact with him, but it was three of us running this thing. And ultimately, like, I just really started learning more through them and kind of that, in that space, learning how to like do merch and just kind of what it takes as a musician to kind of make it through. So I got really early exposure at, you know, from 2012 up through now. So I was also really fortunate to meet some people through my school who this company called White Rabbit Group. They operated out of the Yost Theater in Santa Ana, California. And I, on top of my time doing this clothing brand record label stuff, I was also learning about how venues worked. So I kind of was just kind of like dipping my toes in a bunch of different spaces even early on. And I thought it was really cool, but I just wasn't sure yet at that time. I really was really interested in it. But then something one day just struck me, I think, and I started off as a promoter. I was just handing out flyers at this nightclub, and it was hard work. And I don't know if any people through MIC right now are doing promotions at the Wow Hall or anything like that, because I know that's the local venue there, or whatever other local venues exist, in the area. But I know a lot of people started off as a promoter, and that's what I understood. That's what needed to be done to learn more about the business and what existed more, just beyond that scope. But ultimately, I earned the trust of the venue by sticking around and doing what I could. And one day, I got the chance to shadow the back of house operations team at the Yoast, and I just knew right then and there, like, wow, this is way more exciting than just promoting, like just handing out flyers on the street and trying to bring your friends to make a couple extra dollars or get them to buy a table at the club. Like, as fun as it is, and it's nice to make money off of that kind of thing, I wanted to do more. I've always just liked to be involved with as many things as I can that I can take and fill my bandwidth to. But then at that point, I think it was my time and them trusting me to watch them and not overreact and freak out over whatever is happening back there, because there's really not a lot of things happening, or a lot of people back there during like operational times, like during shows. So watching stage managers work and watching just the venue manager maneuver around and just like all the little pieces, the LDs, the lighting directors, for those who don't know what that is, and just all the other back of house roles that were existing, it just was exciting to me. And one day I asked, like, I really want to learn how to do something here. So venue manager just one day was like, hey, do you want to learn stage management? I said, really? Like, I'm young. Like, are you sure? Like, people are going to listen to me. I'm young. There's all these older people here. They're like, no, you just stick with this person and they'll show you the ropes. And ultimately, like, they were just so welcoming. It was such a family environment. I was really fortunate to fall into that space. And I learned from a lot of great people. There was a guy, Nate Villa, who I remember specifically, who was running that, and this lady, Jen Mandel, who was the manager at the time. And Dave Leon was another big inspiration for me at the Yoast. But those three specifically gave me my bearings. And I think with them really helping me out, and my time with Brills, I think that's really what it came down to, and making me realize I didn't want this to just be, I wanted to be more. I wanted to do more in the space. And I was fortunate really young to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Frankie, I'm already straying from the questions, but I think it's fascinating. You guys both have like this experience kind of in the underground planning and event planning and promotions and stuff like that. Do you, before you have these companies and you're working for other companies, for a lot of college students, like, you don't have a lot of credibility, or you don't have a lot of, experience. How do you, maybe when planning something, either like a, indie house show, or for a band when planning something, how do you gain that credibility? Or do you have some like important things that you need to, or do you have some important things that, you think people should do when event planning, stuff like that at colleges, younger kids?
Yeah, I think on my end, I would say the number one thing, no matter what your experience is, whether you've done this or not, but I think the first thing to do is take yourself seriously and take what you're working on seriously. Because if you are producing something, the role of the producer is a huge responsibility. And, it may seem like, oh, you're throwing a party, but ultimately, like, you're shaping an experience. You're shaping somebody's night, somebody's, it could be. And I think that's why I love producing is, whether it's a small show, big show, no matter what scale, is as the producer, your responsibility is to create a framework that's stable and that's, as thought out and as it can be, and as tailored to the type of experience you want to curate. And then it's up to the artists and your attendees to really color in that framework. So I would say, you know, whether you've done this before or this is, you know, your first run at it, think about your systems, think about the experience you want to create. And, you know, I think the other thing about producing and live events is, unlike a lot of industries, it's not linear. You know, people get in at different points. And I think if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to bring good people into it with you and build a team and really work towards a vision together, whether it's big or small, you know, you can do it, but you have to really care about what you're creating and see that through. And when you do, and when the lights are on and when the stage is set, that's, you know, that's really the biggest gift that comes back to you, when you get to see all those people enjoying an experience that you've worked hard to shape.
I mean, I think Izzy hit it perfectly. I mean, I don't have much more to add from that, except to just echo the idea that having a team is essential for this kind of thing. Like if you're really trying to grow something from the ground up, and you know you're up against, you know, promoter level A person, and then you're here, and that's where you feel like you are. I mean, anything is possible. You can literally build something from the ground up overnight. Sometimes it really happens for people. Sometimes it takes years. You never know. But she's right in the sense that you can enter in at any point. But I think the thing that worked best for me was being around the right people and knowing how to judge the character of your peers and your teammates in the sense of what you're trying to accomplish. I stress always, you know, as they say, two heads are better than one, you know, about 20, 30, you know, it doesn't matter what the number is. You can do it with your best friend or 20 of your best friends. But the point being is, have fun with it. You know, at the end of the day, this is entertainment. This is music. You're here to put on something for people. You know, I believe in the domino effect heavily. You know, if only a couple of people are having fun with it for now, other people are going to want to join it eventually, and it's just going to spiral. And you know, and other people are going to catch wind and be excited about something. But you know, it doesn't matter if things are working right off the bat or not. You know, some people get lucky, some don't. But if you have fun with it, that's what matters. And I think if you keep having fun with that, is going to attract more people to what you're doing. But I do think at the end of the day, I mean, getting started off the bat, if I have to give any like tangible advice though, in that sense, you know, the brand is everything too. You know, I really do feel, well, not everything. It's a majority of the battle though, I would say, and to extent like these days, you know, if you can make something look crazy to the outside world and you create like a mystique effect, or like there's just this natural pull that brings people together, you know, whether it's the flyer that you create for the event, or, you know, you just have a really good online presence, or you have the voice of people that people know that are really influential or something in the space that you're trying to attack, like that's what's going to bring more people to the table too. You know, try, you know, the thing that worked for me, I mean, I can give a relatable example to how like I kind of was able to really move the needle further when it comes to my own stuff. And like I was putting on events and stuff when I was still in college and whatnot too, but not like really officially, so to speak. But one of my fondest memories, actually, this makes me think about, is I got in trouble one night at my university housing. I was in an off-campus apartment complex, and we had a parking garage at the top at night once, and I put on a party for probably 200 people around Orange County, and it was great. A lot of them from the campus, but you know, I'm not supposed to do that, but I had fun doing it anyway. But the way I was able to get all these people around was just from over time, inviting them out to the theaters and whatnot. But I got a lot of people from the local Greek communities at the school to be involved with things. I know a lot of them are also, a lot of people, at least from my school, really excited about music or electronic music at the time. And I just kept inviting them out to the Yoast, you know, when I was still working there and whatnot. And I just, you know, I became really close with them. And then eventually one day when I was ready to do this thing, I enlisted their help, and, you know, with their networks, I was able to broadcast my message to people I didn't even have the access to before. But like, you know, make friends wherever you can, because you never know what kind of resources. I mean, not to say you should use people for the resources, make as many friends as you can too. Never burn any bridges ever, literally ever, never burn bridges, and you will succeed wherever you go. But you never know one day what kind of things your friends can bring to the table. Because I mean, if it wasn't because I wasn't involved in Greek life when I was in school, but I think the people, at the local fraternities and sororities were literally some of my best friends at the time, because there was a lot of things that we did together, but ultimately they helped me put together this big party. And I was like, literally, I was hardly on campus when I was in school, but yet somehow I was able to bring all these people together to my thing, and it was great. But at the end of the day, long story short, make as many friends as you can, and use the best judge of character. And I think it's the team that's going to help drive you forward. Doesn't matter how big or small you are, just have fun with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's great advice.
Yeah. So obviously live music looks very different right now. Where do you guys kind of see live music in general headed over the next few years?
It's a good question. And I think that at the core of it, what's important to remember is that, live music has always been part of human civilization. There are some really essential elements of live and that sort of experience, I think, that are ingrained in how we interact. So I think that although we're in a difficult time, and of course we don't want to exacerbate the problem and the biological matters at this time, I think that as we reflect on live music and what it means and why it's important, it's the time to think about, what are the unifying elements that make it so essential, and then how do we capture those elements without being able to gather. It might be the moment of reflection you get when you're seeing an artist whose message resonates with you. It might be just the ability to go and have an experience with people that you care about. And it might be, being able to listen and dance and, dress in a way that might not be how you normally dress, and kind of take on a character or like whatever embodiment of you want to have for a temporary amount of time. I think that as, we're all for being responsible and staying at home, I think that we can preserve some of these elements that we love about live. And I think that it may just take different mediums right now than it traditionally has. So, that might be a movement over towards streaming like we've seen, or maybe something even more participatory like gaming, where you can have those senses of community there still. It might be, it might be, it might be when we get back to the shows that we have to be patient, and, we have to be understanding. And I think that the shows that are going to do the best and the producers that are going to be producing the best experiences are going to be those that really have a sense of how people are feeling about those experiences. So it's going to take a lot of listening and understanding and patience. So, it might be that we need more, we need more hand washing stations, or we need to start experiencing shows from our vehicles, or we need to have more lenient refund policies for those who feel like they might not be in a state where they should be exposed to other people. And, it might be moving over to outdoor as opposed to indoor. But I think that we have to rely on the data, and we have to rely on science. And, we also have to truly listen to people who are going to attend and work and produce these shows, and everyone that's going to be a part of it, to see what the pulse is there, and then to shape the experience around that. So I think just having that awareness and really taking this time to listen and to think, because we're not going to find the solution to how to produce shows again in a silo. So this is really a good time to be asking questions and trying to do things differently rather than going back to how they've been done before. And my hope is that by taking this moment of pause and reflection on and really drilling down on what it is that makes the live experience so special, the experiences that will happen after this pandemic has passed are going to be all the richer for it. And that'll come through collaboration and listening and really just reflecting on the power of live.
Beautifully said again. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of relatable points, I think, that Issy touched on that I agree with. To be just completely honest, I mean, it's such a gray area right now to where live events are going to be in a couple of years. I mean, I think a lot of people in our space feel the same way. It's really hard to tell like what it's going to look like. But what I can tell you is that the second that live music is back, the second that the first event happens, I know the passion is going to be twice as strong. I can just feel it because there's a lot of workers, there's a lot of staff that have been hit incredibly hard by this, that have lost basically everything. They have people who have been on the road for honestly, almost every day of the year to virtually nothing now. You know, these people are going to be excited to get back if they can, you know, if they haven't pivoted by then. I know there's a lot of people who have to transition. It's a really hard time for everybody, but what I can tell you is that I think between the fans and the actual staff of the events themselves, the energy and the drive to want to make sure this thing stays when it comes back is going to be very real. Myself included. I am so excited to get back. Today specifically, I'm more, inspired to want to try to find a solution as fast as I can, specifically because today, Issy and I should be in Vegas right now. It's supposed to be day one of EDC technically today, which is really crazy. It's a very big day of the year for her and I and our staff collectively, but back to the question in the sense of where do we see live events going, at least for the near future, I think a heavy focus on streaming right now. I mean, we see all these virtual concerts happening left and right now out of nowhere. Everyone's trying to kind of go in that lane. While I do think those are really impactful and very helpful in the interim, you know, I think we're going to be able to get into this next phase. I mean, we just saw yesterday, I know this has already happened in like overseas by now, but they're starting to do the drive-in shows. I saw a show just get announced, at least in the US. This DJ named Carnage just announced a show. It's a drive-in show in Florida happening next month. So I'm very eager to see how this goes. I know a lot of people are as well. The reception so far is positive, but we might see a lot of that, you know, in the interim. Maybe that's the way we combat it, by still creating the essence of the live show, but doing it safely. Maybe when shows come back. Yeah, I do think that there needs to be a vaccine before shows happen again. I think that's like, or just at least more technology to fight this thing so we're more protected. You know, but I think for that, at least and beyond, I really strongly feel that VR and AR is going to play a very big part in the way we experience concerts. I think the technology being developed right now is extremely incredible. I've been lucky, I can't talk too much about a lot, but I've been very lucky to see some concepts for some things that are very close to being pretty groundbreaking for a lot of people. I think, you know, we're going to really feel like we're there when we're not actually physically there pretty soon. And I think that kind of technology is going to be pretty accessible to us soon. I don't know when, but I think I personally am going to be very excited about experiencing a concert in VR. That might be really cool, but I think when we do get back to it, I know there's going to be a lot of venues, a lot less venues to house shows and concerts, because I know a lot of independent venues are hurting. There's a lot of great foundations though right now that I know people can donate to, that I think are trying to urge Congress members and just members of, like, you know, the political parties of each state across the country they're trying to get some action to make sure that these kinds of places are preserved, because the second that shows go back together or are able to come back, you know, I do think regardless of what they can do or not, I do think the competition is going to be a lot crazier for getting artists into venues, or across the nation, even maybe the world. I don't know, but I can speak for the U.S. No, it's going to be pretty intense competition, but I think it's going to be easily navigatable. I think we're going to see new talent emerge, which I think is going to be awesome. What I'm really hoping happens is, if some people may feel that some artists don't get enough shine compared to a lot of other people that have had regular rotation across the country and, in different venues or festivals, I think these live streams are really, really helpful for any genre, any scene in general, because we're able to experience new talent, and they're able to build new fan bases and gain new audiences. So the second that these things are over, maybe these people that have been live streaming that have pulled in 20,000, 30,000 viewers online can all of a sudden in their hometown or in other cities across the country that had zero touring history, all of a sudden can sell out a venue. Who knows? I mean, we could see a whole paradigm change in the way that we see concerts. Artists that were popular before might not be. Artists that weren't popular before might be. There are so many possibilities, but I do think we're going to see a lot more technology involved, 3 times as much as it was before when things come back. But I just hope things come back soon, because I know I can speak for Izzy and I, we're ready to get back to it. So
Just a quick follow-up on that one. I just have had an observation. I'm interested to see what you guys think. That I felt like a lot of the streamed concerts that are trying to simulate the live concert haven't been as successful as they originally thought. And instead, I felt like a lot of live sessions where it's a more intimate setting, such as the Tiny Desk concert, the KEXP live sessions. I don't know if you've ever seen those, where it's more of it's something else. It seems like live concerts are already obviously very successful, and these live sessions then where interviewers can ask questions in between songs are very successful. Do you think that at all is something that could be we could see more of in the future, instead of just trying to do these online concerts?
I think you're right. KXP is really special, and Tiny Desk or NPR is really special. And I think what makes them so special is they have a very clear sense of self, and they do a great job of retaining that sense of self and style and setting, while also being flexible enough to incorporate, the best of the artists that they're bringing in, and kind of balancing that creative control between their brand and their setting and the mood of their productions, and then the talents of the artists coming in and, doing maybe, I think a lot, especially for Tiny Desk, is kind of that acoustic sound, or seeing an artist that you like in a way that you've never seen them before. And I think that people like that, because it kind of feels like, pulling back the curtain and seeing this act in sometimes, especially in those intimate settings, an even more authentic way. And I think that some of the great thing about Twitch and live streams is that they are live, and there is that authenticity there, and it's unedited, it's in the moment. And so I think it can be for insight into the personality of that act and how they express their art. But I think that you make a good point too, Joey, about when you bring in all of that production and you have the stream happening, but it feels a little bit flat sometimes. I think that comes from the fact that it's really is the exchange between audience and artists that gives that production, that setting energy. And when you don't have that physical presence for that exchange, no matter how much production you have, that energy won't be the same. And I think it also feeds back to the artists, in that they find inspiration from the reaction in the crowd, and it's actual expression and reception. So I think that but I think that right now, when there is uncertainty, we got it all, and we need to see what hits, and we need to see kind of how we best pivot and what resonates. And I think that it's a really good time to explore and do things differently, and try out different styles, whether that be something like Circle, where they have their streams like in these beautiful landscapes, and that sort of is the production, is like the location, and the background, and a lot of times that's more natural. So I think ultimately, however someone is expressing that, is trying out a creative idea or an expression right now, if it's authentic, and if it's something that is representative of like the art they make, I think that's the stuff that is going to stick around the longest, and will have the best reception. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that like there's not really one model that fits all, but when you have a clear sense of what you're trying to build, and like how you incorporate different teams, different people, and different like art into that, like that's what leads to like the most interesting content to watch.
Yeah, I agree with everything Izzy just said. Again, I mean, it really depends. I guess everyone has different versions of what they view as successful. Some people may see success as 100,000 viewers, or $1 million raised for charity, or whatever the case is, or whatever it may be. Everyone has different goals in the sense of what makes a successful stream in that sense. But I think, I do think those two examples you expressed just now are really great. I've actually been able to watch a couple, and I think they are really perfectly executed. I really feel connected when I watch those. But in the sense, I mean, I have seen a lot of very successful live streams though a lot lately. I mean, there's a lot of people trying it, and yeah, some don't work, some do. But I think a lot of it comes in the sense of the technology that's available to them, and what kind of brand partnerships they might have, and these things in turn do cost money to produce, and not everything has to be about money though. You can literally live stream from your MacBook right now if you wanted to, and play the guitar and get a couple thousand viewers if it worked, somehow. Anyone can live stream anywhere, which is really awesome. But I've seen some pretty successful streams in the sense that people have raised $50,000 to charity. There's been 5 million viewers across every social platform. There are some really, really good examples of people putting together these virtual concerts right now. And, some big tech brands are getting involved. Gaming companies are getting involved, to really broaden the reach of these concerts. I mean, of course, not everyone has access to these, but, if you really develop something, I mean, the great part about this is I kind of feel like everyone's on the same playing field right now. The blanket canvas is the internet right now. Everyone has access to the internet. Anyone can send an email to anybody. If the concept's good enough, I'm sure people will join on board. I mean, I think literally anyone sitting at home watching this that hasn't had the opportunity to do something cool and creative, like put an event on in person, throw a virtual concert right now. I mean, there's literally nothing stopping you at this point. I think you really have a chance to do something cool. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be, live in the sense of, I mean, directly engaging with people as you're playing in that sense. You could easily put together a bunch of clips of a bunch of your friends performing, and then make a clip of it. And then you just jump in the comments on Twitch or Mixer or YouTube or wherever you're streaming from. And you just engage and watch the video together. And then, while all of you guys are having fun with it, then you're throwing your own concert and your own show at that point. But like, literally, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. I think people view the success of a concert to many different reasons. And that's kind of what I said in the beginning. But truthfully, just got to have fun with it. Like everyone said, I mean, there are going to be many more opportunities to grow these streams that have already been successful too. Like now that people know that these things are working, I can't even imagine what kind of crazy things are going to be available to more people, by the end of this year to make these even crazier. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I really agree with what Izzy said, but at the end of the day, everyone's version of success is different, but there are a lot of really successful live streams out there right now.
Yeah, totally. I think it's interesting to see kind of like the transition from regular concerts to just like everything's online right now. But I want to make sure we get to our Instagram questions. So Jill Sullivan, who you guys have both met, asks, what is a favorite festival memory that you guys have?
Oh, wow. There's so many. I guess there's two genres of festival memory. One, and both are important and both are meaningful. One genre is when I was experiencing it, when I was out there having fun, pretty carefree with friends, just taking in the music, the production, the experience. The second is when I was producing it and when I was, on comms, probably speaking to Aren, and professional, and watching everyone have that fun that I had experienced at other productions. And so I think to answer this question, I'll do one and one. So probably in terms of the fun side and just like valuing something live, I think some of my most euphoric moments were at Sasquatch Music Festival when it was still happening. And there was one summer that I drove from where I went to school in Southern California, Claremont McKenna College, all the way up to the gorge to catch the festival. We did this whole road trip around it. It felt like a journey, and it felt like, like total deliverance when we were watching Jamie XX, out on the hill and the amphitheater. And that's another, I guess, in the theme of impressive settings and beautiful landscapes, that's another venue where it's not a matter of the production really making the experience, but it's a space that's really lucky to have such an awesome backdrop that's awe-inspiring. That goes a long way. And then in terms of producing a show, and favorite memories around that, I would probably say that it's hard because every time there's a show, like it's the same feeling that I've worked on. It's the same feeling of magic when you see it happening. And it's a feeling that I don't get at any other point in my life. And it's kind of like it's the why. I have this folder on my computer called This Is Why. And it's all like, it could be an email that I got after a show that I did from someone that was like, thank you, like I had a great time, or I have this memory. But I think that, and I know I'm supposed to pick one, but I would think that for my favorite memories for the show I produced have been like that moment when you stand on the stage, or you stand at back of house, or you're just on the radio and you're listening to your team communicate and solve problems before they happen. And it's like, it's kind of like what I am chasing throughout my whole career is like those moments, because those are precious to me, and those are, exactly what keeps me going and keeps me moving in this direction professionally. It's those moments of collaboration and seeing people enjoy a vision that like may have lived in your head for so long, and then seeing it take place. Those are probably like some of the moments in my life overall that I value the most and I cherish the most.
I think what Izzy said, there was one thing that just stood out. I mean, I'm about to pinpoint one specific memory that has ever since just made me more excited about what I do. And it happened last year, which is great. But what she just said was, every festival makes me feel the same way at the end of it. I just get this feeling of such excitement, and makes me realize that I picked the right path in life to be doing this kind of thing. I love seeing the hard work pay off when I get to look out at thousands of kids, partying and having the best time and just like being excited about being there, all people from the hard work that you put in. That is, I love that feeling so much. And even those around you, the teams that we work with, the fellow staff that I'm around, everyone being excited at the end of the event, just knowing that you just put in all this hard work and no sleep, little to no sleep, and all the blood, all the sweat, all the whatever going into it, it is so worth it seeing how excited people are. But the one specific memory that stands out to me the most, last year, I had the opportunity to be one of the production runner and assistants at Porter Robinson's Second Sky Festival in Oakland, California last year. And I was on site for a little over a week. It was really, really hard work, but just like any other festival, in the planning and the pre-logistics going into it. But it was a lot of work, and I was excited to be there. I learned a lot from that festival. But there's one moment specifically at that, and it was at the end of the festival. And Izzy and I have a mutual friend who was Porter's security manager that show. And I went up to him, and I was just talking with him at the end of the show, just, wondering how he was, because he was just by himself doing his thing. And I was just talking about how everything was. And Porter comes up at the end, and he starts talking to him, but then we start a conversation all together. And then him and I ended up having a conversation for a few minutes, but we were just kind of in the back, kind of just talking. And he says something to me. He's like, doesn't this feel like the ending to a movie right now? And it was like the last act, like everything's like closing down, like there's like fireworks going, and it's just like, and he says that, and I'm just like, yeah, it does. And like on my drive home, I didn't stop thinking about it. And it was like, but it was right in the sense that, like, all this hard work just went into it. And yeah, it is the ending to a movie in the sense that all this crazy exciting things happen, and then boom, it worked. Everything went well. Everyone's happy, and then on the next. And that's kind of like, ever since then, I've just kind of taken that as inspiration. And anytime I feel down or anything, I think back to that, and it keeps me going. And yeah, that was my favorite memory, I think, of anything to date so far.
Nice. Frankie, you got the next one, or you want me to? Okay. So we had two Instagram people wondering, kind of about, one was about like marketing music, and one's about like freelance photography. So I guess for both of those, do you guys have a way that for students it's good to get either your music, your photography, or art in any way out to people when you don't have, a large portfolio? How do you approach, people like yourselves or anyone else with your work?
I think I'm going to let Aren talk about the music side. He works on a lot of campaigns and releases, so I think he's best equipped for that one. In terms of the photography one, I think for this one, I will draw on for last year, I was the producer for a media company called Kurza, and they do a lot of festival after movies and placing creators, so content creators, on tour with artists. And I think that from that experience working with, as a producer for not necessarily an event, but for a media agency that focuses on photography and videography, what I saw, which was, the most important in how those creators were placed with the artists, was obviously talent, hard work, but beyond that was match, and being someone that on a long day where you're traveling, where you're on buses and planes and trains and in motion, not sleeping a lot, being the kind of person, the kind of coworker that, is going to keep a good energy and going to be positive and, excited to be there. And, takes each day and each challenge as it is, and open to doing whatever it takes for the success of the team and the operation. So in getting into that, I would say that, like I was speaking of before with producing shows, is whatever art you're doing, whatever it is that is your life's work, take it seriously. So, if you're a photographer, like, you just know that art you're producing is worthwhile, and like, it's worth investing your time in if that's the thing that's you. And that might mean you get on Dropbox and create some nicely organized content and folders around your work, or you try and database where things come from. I think one thing I've seen with photographers is, if you have a really good picture, trying to share that with the subject of the picture through professional channels. So, maybe a lot of the times when you go on Facebook, you can see the management contact, or you can see the, kind of general email contact. Email that along, and I would say, craft a message that is professional, and include a tag, or maybe include the location, and yeah, take yourself seriously, and know that your art is worthwhile. And when you present yourself in a way that is serious, I think then you're going to be received in a way that also has a reflected respect for your profession and the art you're creating.
Nice. Yeah. In a sense, what I guess I could say about the music side of how to properly market yourself in that sense. It's a long one, but I'm going to condense it as much as I can, in the sense that, there are a lot of different ways you can go about it. But I think the best way in terms of music, at least not right now, at this point in time, as we've kind of talked about in most of this discussion, is that we don't have access to really being face-to-face that often right now. I can tell you right now, there are more eyes on the internet than there probably ever were. I mean, everyone's on the internet all the time, but you should get your music out into as many places as you possibly can right now. Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, or learn about distribution. There's a lot of great websites out there, that you could help get your music onto all platforms. There's two off the bat. There's TuneCore and DistroKid. Look into those websites right now if you want to look into getting your music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, whatever your preferred DSP is. Get out on as many places as you can, and develop plans around that. Develop a strategy on how to study your favorite artists and see how they roll out a release for one of their tracks, and learn about that and kind of spin off in your own way. There's a lot of ways you can really capture more fans. Create incentive for your fans or your audience. But at the end of the day, if you want people to really notice you, like the managers, the agents, and whatnot, they're going to come to you when the time is right. You don't need to seek them out; they will come to you. And trust me, it happens that way. Like if you're making noise, people will pay attention, and that's just how it goes. But I think really what it comes down to right now is, develop your image, develop your voice, and be consistent. Engage with everybody as much as you can. Maybe, I think showing that you are inviting and welcoming, and your whatever kind of music you're producing, find a way. Sometimes Facebook or Instagram might not always be the best option. Reddit is honestly an awesome place to throw your music out. Sometimes I've discovered a ton of great artists through Reddit. Funny enough, that actually became some of my clients through Crowd Control. Funny enough, so they're very successful now. When they started, as compared to when they started years ago. This takes time. But at the end of the day, it's not a race. It could take you time. It could take you a couple months. It could take you another couple of years. But this is once again the kind of thing. Have fun with it. Don't force it. People will know when you're forcing it, and that is what's going to drive people away. But I think the best thing you can take away from this is just focus on creating your voice and what you can do to stand out from the rest of the pack. And what that might be, if that's too vague or if it's too broad of a message, like that you will learn what that is. You know, I bet there are a lot of people with similar voices that you can learn from. You don't necessarily copy what they're doing, but take influence from what is around you. And I said this earlier, when the same rule applies to when you're putting a show together. Two heads are better than one. Share music with your friends. Have your friends help share your music. Have your friends and whoever you have around you help spread your message. You know, there's a lot of great musical crews, collectives all around in many different genres. You know, create a space for people, create your own environment, you know, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that through the internet right now. But honestly, just work. I think the biggest thing is create your image and your voice and your brand, and you will see that will take you very far. The music's good and the brand's good, you're well on your way.
Yeah. I would say it's always a good time to invest in yourself. Like what you're saying, Aren, is like, invest in yourself, give yourself the opportunity to like have those moments of discovery and build into like the creative medium, whatever it may be, photography, making music, producing shows, like marketing, like whatever it may be. Like give yourself the time to study it and to have a voice, you know, in that medium. And maybe that means you do that work for free for a little bit to build your skills and build your profile, but also know your value for when it's time to, you know, to start monetizing your art. Because if you're investing in yourself, that time will come. And yeah, and anything that you put those hours into mastering, that will have its own value. And I think especially at a time like now, there are a lot of uncertainties, but I think what is certain is that which you learn, or that which you can work on, and, you know, that which you can draw from and work on now and then apply later, or even start applying now. So it's never a bad time to build, and it's never a bad time to work on a vision and to, you know, like spend time with yourself and thinking about what that may be. And like Aren said, like then, you know, bringing more people into it and further developing it. And, you know, in this moment of uncertainty really does come an opportunity to have these moments with yourself and with your vision.
I will say this, the last note I have on the topic is I do encourage everyone, if they can, I mean, even if you're camera shy or whatnot, you know, if you want to be an artist, you're going to be on a stage eventually, start streaming. Go on Twitch and Mixer, create an account and create a schedule. I honestly love the platform so much. I've, you know, been using it for a couple of years now, but I would say even now more so. I'm on it on almost 7 days, 24/7 almost at this point. You know, there are so many great things, you know, or YouTube Live, you know, there's so many live stream platforms coming out now too, but since you can't perform in person right now, you know, bring the performance to the people through the internet and start streaming, invest in some streaming platform stuff, you know, and you can really, really engage with people that way. And I think that's going to be a really cool way for you right now to get started.
Oh, Frankie, I think you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Thank you guys for joining us today. It's really great to hear from you in this crazy time for live music. But it feels hopeful, you know, looking towards the future. And yeah.
Thanks you guys so much. We could go on all day. I feel like talking. You guys are really, really helpful and great advice. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us, guys. It's always really fun to be able to talk about stuff like this. And, you know, this was really awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. All right.
And also, if you want to send out email addresses for ourselves with the mic, or with, you know, anyone in your organization to continue the conversation in any way, I'm happy to share. It's isabella@kingdomofmind.co. So yeah, I mean, anything. I think especially now, it's good to communicate and hear multiple voices and perspectives. And, you know, if anyone wants to continue the conversation or dive more deeply into some of these questions, now is a great time.
Same for me. Yeah, if anyone wants to, life's crazy for me, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people, but I love talking about this stuff with people. I'm Aren, AREN, at crowdcontroldigital.com if anyone wants to shoot me a message.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you so much. You too. Take care, you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.